Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This video is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. What you're about to hear is a direct report from federal courtroom testimony in the ongoing case involving Sean Diddy, Combs, as covered by Inner City Press. When the son of Hollywood royalty takes the witness stand against one of the music industry's most influential figures, it leaves only one question: what did Jaden Smith see inside his own home that brought the entire courtroom to a standstill? And why are prosecutors now calling his words the missing piece that could tie everything together? In this federal trial where Diddy faces serious criminal allegations, no one expected to see Jaden Smith step forward, not as a performer, not as a celebrity's child, but as a key witness. A young man raised in the heart of Hollywood and hip-hop, with a front row seat to moments the public was never supposed to know about. And then came that bombshell. Jaden described late-night meetings at the Smith residence, conversations heard through bedroom walls, and even a secret recording, one that captured events far removed from the polished image the cameras usually present. Was it all a misunderstanding, or did it point to something much darker? Jaden didn't deal in rumors. He spoke with clear memory, backed by documents and details that had Diddy looking down, avoiding eye contact, while his lawyers scrambled to respond. Why would Jaden Smith put everything on the line? What would make him risk his family's legacy, their powerful industry ties, to take this stand? And what did he witness that had both Will and Jada Smith sitting silently in the gallery, visibly shaken? This isn't just another moment of celebrity drama. This is a rare, unfiltered look at the secrets shared between two of the most powerful families in show business. And it all starts with Jaden Smith's testimony. If you're finding this story compelling, like this video and subscribe for real updates as this explosive trial continues to unfold. I'm currently outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, where one of the trial's most unexpected events just occurred. Moments ago, Jaden Smith exited the courtroom after delivering what some insiders are calling a game-changing testimony, one that hit hard and couldn't be ignored. His face was steady, his energy focused and far beyond his years. Unlike previous witnesses who appeared shaken, Jaden walked out with purpose. He briefly nodded toward reporters before stepping into a waiting SUV. Inside, the moment he entered the courtroom, everything changed. What had been a routine day of legal back and forth suddenly turned electric. Jaden Smith, known more for his esoteric tweets than legal matters, walked in wearing a dark, understated suit, a sharp departure from his usual experimental style. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Even the judge paused for a moment. There was no warning, no statement, just Jaden taking the stand, visibly serious. Up until now, the Smith family had remained distant from Diddy's mounting controversies. But behind the scenes, their ties ran deep, from red carpets and business deals to family vacations and private events. But today, that silence broke. But something had clearly shifted. Maybe it was the growing mountain of evidence against Diddy. Maybe it was something far more personal. Either way, Jaden Smith had reached his limit. He wasn't showing up as a celebrity, not as a performer, but as someone who had spent his youth quietly observing things no one ever expected him to notice, let alone remember. And once he started speaking, the courtroom wasn't ready. What Jaden shared about those private meetings at the Smith family home, the late-night conversations he overheard, and the interactions he quietly witnessed, it wasn't just disturbing. It was so detailed, so precise, that it stripped away any chance of dismissing it as mere rumor or tabloid drama. This wasn't gossip. This was a first-hand account, laid out with the clarity of someone who had seen too much, too young, but had finally chosen to speak. I've had years to reflect on what I saw, Jaden began, his voice calm and unwavering. I was often treated like I wasn't really there, like I was too young to understand. That was their mistake. The judge leaned in. Diddy's lawyers jumped up, objecting immediately, arguing that Jaden's memories were nothing more than childhood impressions. But then Jaden pulled out the unexpected, a journal he had kept since the age of 14. Inside it, dates, times, direct quotes, detailed documentation of what he'd heard and witnessed. The objection was overruled. And just like that, the courtroom dynamic shifted again. That morning had started like any other, a low hum of voices, reporters organizing their gear, attorneys reviewing paperwork. Everyone was expecting a dry, technical testimony from a financial expert. But then the bailiff called the name Jaden Smith. The room froze. Some thought it was a clerical error. Others assumed it was a PR move. But when Jaden walked in back straight, eyes locked forward, it was clear. This was no stunt. This was real. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. Diddy, who had managed to stay calm throughout the trial, suddenly sat upright. His face tightened, not with anger, but with worry. Jaden approached the witness stand, glanced toward Diddy, not with hatred, but with a look of disappointment and resolve. He took the oath, and then the prosecution opened. For the record, please state your relationship to the defendant. Sean Combs has been a close family friend since I was a child, Jaden replied. He's visited our home many times. He's been a business partner to both of my parents and someone I once admired as a mentor. He explained how that relationship started in the late 1990s, beginning with Will Smith and Diddy's industry ties and evolving into what appeared to be a personal bond. Mr. Combs was just around. At dinners, at parties, sometimes just hanging out, Jaden said. As a kid, it all seemed normal, just another famous face at our house. But then something shifted. Jaden said his perspective started changing. Around 2013, when he was 15, I started picking up on patterns, he explained. There was the public Diddy funny, charming, generous. Then there was the business, Diddy serious, calculating. And then there was this third side. The version that came out late at night when he thought the kids were asleep. Jaden described how his bedroom at the family's Calabasas home sat directly above a sitting room where his father and Diddy often had private, late-night talks. I could hear them clearly through the floorboards, he said. At first it was just industry stuff, nothing that stood out. But by 2014, the tone had changed. According to Jaden, the conversations turned toward things like controlling narratives, keeping people quiet, and making examples of those who stepped out of line. Then came the night that changed everything. It was one of our holiday parties, December 2015. Jaden recalled, Mr. Combs showed up late, clearly agitated, and asked to speak to my dad in private. They went into the study. I needed to grab something from the next room, and the door between them was ajar. That's when he overheard it. Mr. Combs was talking about someone being a liability, that this person needed to be handled, Jaden testified. What shocked me wasn't just what he said, it was my father's reaction. He looked uncomfortable, but didn't push back. According to Jaden, Will Smith responded with, there are better ways to handle these situations. To which Combs replied, your way keeps your hands clean, my way makes sure the problem stays solved. That night, Jaden said, he began documenting everything. The next day I started keeping a journal. I started writing everything down, Jaden said. The dates, the people involved, what I heard, because even if I didn't fully understand what it all meant, I knew something about it felt off, and I didn't want to forget. Over the next few years, those journal entries multiplied. He began documenting Diddy's behavior at private events, his interactions with other celebrities, and the strange ways people around him reacted, especially when he made a demand. One told him no, Jaden observed. It didn't matter how late it was, or how unrealistic the requests, everyone bent over backward to make it happen. And if they couldn't, they were replaced. I saw it happen more than once. Jaden also described how his personal relationship with Diddy began to shift. As I got older and started building my own name, Mr. Combs started treating me differently. He'd pull me aside at parties, offer introductions, promise he could open doors for me. But those offers always came with an expectation, loyalty above everything else. According to Jaden, the turning point came in 2018, during a weekend at the family's private vacation property. Diddy arrived with his entourage, including several young artists who, as Jaden put it, didn't seem like they were there by choice. They stayed quiet, never strayed far from Diddy's side, and avoided making eye contact. One young woman, in particular, looked genuinely scared. When I tried to talk to her one-on-one, one of Diddy's security guys stepped in immediately. Jaden said that same night, he made a decision that would later become central to the federal investigation. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, so I placed my phone in the guest house where Mr. Combs was staying and started recording. At the time, I told myself I was just being paranoid, but I had to know for sure. Jaden's voice stayed level as he described the moment that changed everything. What I heard on that recording shattered everything I thought I knew about someone my family had trusted for decades. He paused, then added, I've struggled with this for a long time. I was raised in an industry where silence is survival, but I was also taught to stand up for what's right even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. He glanced toward his parents in the gallery. Will Smith nodded quietly in return. The recording I made that night wasn't meant to be evidence, that it was just for me to know whether I was imagining things or if something was really wrong. Jaden went on to explain how he had placed the phone in the main living area of the guest house, just before Diddy arrived for what was framed as a relaxed meeting about a potential collaboration between Jaden's fashion line and one of Diddy's brands. The business talk didn't last more than 15 minutes, Jaden said, but then Diddy got a call and the whole tone changed. According to Jaden, the call was captured clearly on the recording. Diddy began discussing someone who was preparing to speak publicly about an incident that happened at one of his parties. His exact words, I don't care what it costs. Find out what she wants to ball it. If that doesn't shut her down, remind her what happened. To the last one who talked. After the call, Diddy allegedly gave orders to his security team, telling them to make calls, put eyes on the situation. Then came the comment that sent chills down Jaden's spine. If Will knew half the stuff we've had to clean up, he wouldn't be so eager to open his doors. That statement, Jaden said, confirmed what he'd been suspecting for a while, that his father didn't know the full truth. Diddy, he claimed, had been using their family's image and relationships as a shield to give cover to something darker. But the most disturbing moment on the recording hadn't happened yet. Later that same night, another associate showed up at the guest house, this time with a folder of documents and some printed photographs. Jaden said the conversation quickly turned to someone who had been tracking everything. Someone Diddy considered a major Liability. Double quotes. Mr. Combs told him to take care of it, whatever it takes. Jaden testified. Then came the fallout after listening to the recording. Jaden didn't know where to turn. He was 19, and suddenly holding information that suggested someone his family had trusted for years might be involved in coercion or worse. He went to his mother first. About a week later, I played the recording for my mom. She didn't say much, just picked up the phone and called my dad. Will Smith was filming out of town at the time, but after that call, he came home immediately. According to Jaden, the confrontation between Will Smith and Diddy took place at their home with only the three of them present. My dad was calm, but direct. He asked Diddy to explain the recording. At first, Diddy tried brushing it off, calling it industry talk. When that didn't work, he claimed he was only trying to protect the family from outsiders who exploit celebrities. The conversation ended with a line Jaden said he'll never forget. My father told him, "We've known each other too long for you to bring this to my family's doorstep." Diddy's response, "You're making a mistake. Nobody walks away from me without consequences." What followed, according to Jaden, was a calculated wave of pressure. Projects his parents had been working on began to hit. Unexplained roadblocks. Partnerships dissolved. People in the industry suddenly stopped responding. Nothing ever directly linked back to Diddy, but the pattern was unmistakable for Jaden. The harassment got more personal. I started getting messages from unknown numbers, photos of me outside, private places, screenshots of my text, things that made it clear I was being watched. One message read, "Recordings go both ways." Still, Jaden kept documenting everything. He expanded his journal, connecting what he had heard in the guest house to things unfolding across the industry. Artists leaving Diddy's label under mysterious circumstances, victims withdrawing legal complaints, whistleblowers going quiet overnight. The pattern matched what I heard in those conversations, he said. But the final breaking point came when he recognized a face. The same young woman from their vacation home, the one who seemed terrified, had apparently filed a sealed complaint. Shortly after she vanished from the spotlight, Jaden testified. Her name popped up in a court filing. I saw her photo and then nothing. The story disappeared everywhere. Just gone. That, he said, was when it hit him. This wasn't about business. This wasn't about image. This was something else entirely. Real people were being hurt. That's how Jaden opened the next chapter of his explosive testimony. He told the courtroom he didn't run to the media, didn't make cryptic social media posts. "I went straight to federal investigators," he said, "because I understood exactly how serious this was. I followed the legal process because the truth deserved real accountability." When prosecutors asked why he believed his testimony mattered, Jaden's voice didn't waver. "The recording I handed over shows how Mr. Combs operates. How he eliminates perceived threats, how he manipulates relationships with families like mine, and how he speaks when he thinks no one important is listening. It shows clear intention, and it proves he knew he was crossing lines that couldn't be undone." As the testimony rolled on, reporters inside the courtroom described a stunning shift in Diddy's body language. Gone was the bold eye contact he had maintained with earlier witnesses. Now he sat frozen, head down, eyes shut for long stretches, his entire demeanor unraveling with every sentence. Jaden told the court that it wasn't until his family cut ties with Diddy that he truly began to see the full picture. "Once we stepped back, the phone calls started, quiet messages, former insiders telling me their own stories. I realized we weren't alone. There was a pattern. And it wasn't just disturbing, it was strategic." He described how different people, artists, executives, designers, began to tell him the same type of story. It always started with access. Diddy would spot potential in someone, talent, connections, or name value, and offer them the world. "It felt like he was blessing you," Jaden said. "The resources, the introductions, the promises, it felt like mentorship. But that was just phase one. In phase two, Jaden said the dynamic would change. He made himself the gatekeeper. If you wanted to move forward, you needed his nod. Everything started running through him. And then came the darkest phase, the compromise." Jaden paused here, visibly uncomfortable. He described private gatherings, exclusive trips, late-night parties, moments where something always seemed off. People were encouraged or sometimes manipulated, doing things they normally wouldn't. Drugs, risky behavior, scenarios that didn't feel natural. Some of these moments, Jaden testified, were deliberately documented. He said he overheard conversations and later confirmed through others that compromising footage was sometimes created without people even knowing. Photos, videos, screenshots, evidence that could destroy someone if leaked. And when someone stepped out of line, it would start subtly, Jaden explained. Little reminders, inside jokes, a smirk, a reference. "Remember, Vegas or Miami was wild, huh?" But if those veiled warnings didn't work, the tone got sharper. Jaden shared a specific story, a young musician who stayed at the Smith home briefly during a 2017 collaboration. He was so excited at first. Getting signed by Diddy was a dream. But 6 months later, he was a shell of himself, nervous all the time, constantly checking his phone. When Jaden asked him what was wrong, the artist just shook his head. You don't get it, he said that. Then, he showed Jaden a video of himself, clearly intoxicated, in a compromising situation. He didn't even remember it happening. The message was obvious. Jaden told the court, "comply, or this goes public." After that confrontation, Jaden said, he began seeing things with new clarity. It was like someone pulled back the curtain on the entire industry. He started connecting celebrities who were always at Diddy's events, despite having no current projects with him. Deals that seemed financially nonsensical, but somehow always got greenlit. Public statements that echoed the exact same language across completely unrelated people. But the most damning part, Jaden said it all tracked back to a single structure, a control system, hidden in plain sight, and he had been documenting it since 2018. I started paying attention to what happened when someone publicly opposed him or walked away. He noticed 3 common outcomes: a scandal erupting from nowhere, a stalled or sabotaged project, or a sudden 180 in public behavior followed by exaggerated praise for Diddy. The pattern was too perfect to be coincidence, Jaden said flatly. He even named examples: artists who left Diddy's label and were hit with drug rumors within weeks. Business partners who became targets of unexpected tax audits. Celebs who once criticized Diddy only to appear on red carpets with him again months later, singing his praises word for word. It created fear, Jaden concluded. I saw it with my own eyes, people laughing too hard at his jokes, nodding too fast, saying yes to things they clearly wanted to say no to. When prosecutors asked Jaden to tie this back to the charges in court, his answer was sharp and unshaken. This wasn't just influence, it was engineered. This wasn't just loyalty, it was leverage. And this wasn't just about ego. It was about power, and how far someone would go to protect it. The system I witnessed wasn't just career control, it was a machine built to trap people, forcing them to stay quiet or play along with behavior that crossed far beyond legal or moral lines. When someone holds that much control over your reputation, your access, and even your safety, that's not a mogul. That's a predator in plain sight. As Jaden wrapped this part of his testimony, he turned to the question that's echoed across the entire industry. If it was this bad, why didn't anyone speak up sooner? His answer was calm but brutal. Now I understand why. Speaking out has been intentionally made to feel like professional suicide. Jaden didn't point to a single moment that pushed him to testify. It was a slow, painful realization. For years, I convinced myself this was just how the industry works, that maybe I was being dramatic. But when survivors started stepping forward, I knew I couldn't keep pretending it was all just business. He spoke about the emotional toll, especially as someone raised in one of Hollywood's most powerful families. I knew my words would reflect on my parents, that it might raise questions they weren't ready to answer. And that was the hardest part, knowing my truth would cost them too before going to the authorities. Jaden had one final difficult conversation with his parents. His dad, Will Smith, worried about the ripple effects it might cause not just for their family, but for everyone Diddy had touched. His mother Jada reminded him what mattered most, doing what's right, even when it's not easy. And as whispers started to spread that Jaden might take the stand, the pressure came fast and vicious. People he hadn't heard from in years started reaching out. Texts, voice notes, old photos, cryptic warnings. One message was just a picture of me from a party, nothing incriminating, but the caption said, "Enough, we've got more than this." Still, he moved forward. He handed over everything: recordings, journals, timestamps, every piece of evidence he'd collected over years. Every time I thought about backing out, I'd see a story of another person coming forward. Most of them had way less protection than me. If they could be brave, how could I justify staying quiet? Then Jaden looked around the courtroom and delivered the line that stuck with everyone. Mr. Combs didn't just build a brand, he built a shield. A system designed to keep him untouchable and everyone else afraid. He paused, looked at the jury, and leaned in. I'm not just here because of what I saw. I'm here because I finally realized staying silent made me part of it. He said that as the allegations kept surfacing, it all began to connect. Those vague, unsettling conversations, those recordings, they weren't harmless. They were blueprints. Jaden admitted his final decision came after one last conversation with his father. Will told him sometimes doing what's right and what's smart are two different things, and in those moments, who you are decides what you do. When Diddy's attorney tried to paint Jaden's testimony as a publicity stunt, his response: "Shut the room down. I've been famous since I could talk. My family has all the access anyone could ever want. This doesn't benefit me, it costs me." But I couldn't stay quiet when I knew my voice might finally matter. They tried to say he was too young to be taken seriously, his reply. In rooms like the ones I grew up in, being the youngest meant staying quiet and watching everything. I may not have spoken back then, but I never stopped paying attention. When asked about his current relationship with Diddy, Jaden was firm. There is no relationship, not anymore. Not after what we learned, not after what we lived through. And as he neared the end of his statement, Jaden made it clear, this isn't about destroying an industry. It's about exposing a person who used that industry like a weapon because he believed his power made him immune. Then, something no one expected. He turned directly to Diddy, the man who had once been like family, and for the first time, looked him in the eye. "I used to admire you. I believed in what you said you stood for, but that person, the mentor, the mogul, he doesn't match the man who threatened my father in our own home." Diddy's legal team immediately. The judge asked him to direct his comments to the court, not the defendant. But the damage was done. Even courtroom reporters noted that for a moment, Diddy looked back at Jaden and then looked away. His face tight, caught somewhere between rage and shame. Jaden turned back to the jury. "What I saw wasn't just manipulation. It was a system, a strategy to keep people afraid, compliant and silent, no matter the cost." And when the prosecutor asked him the final question, "Why testify now?" his answer echoed through the courtroom, "Because silence is what lets this happen, and I won't be part of that anymore." Of all the people in Diddy's circle, it was Jaden Smith who chose to step forward, and not just with rumors or vague statements, but with precise, documented testimony. When asked why he finally broke the silence, his answer cut through the room: because silence doesn't protect anyone, it allows the harm to continue. And more importantly, Jaden admitted something powerful. "My silence wasn't harmless, it was a decision. And every day I stayed quiet. Someone without my privilege was left exposed and unprotected." But it was what came next that truly shook the courtroom and the industry. Jaden wasn't just recalling moments of tension or suspicion. What he laid out was methodical, calculated, and intentional. "The conversations I overheard weren't emotional outbursts," he said. "They were deliberate strategies, tactics to keep people in line, plans to neutralize anyone who stepped out of place. This wasn't chaos. It was structured, a system built on fear and control." The room went still. No movement, no whisper, just Jaden's voice echoing. He described how Diddy used to repeat one line often: "Perception is reality. If you could to control how people saw you, you could shape the entire narrative." But Jaden finished that thought with a warning: eventually, reality wins, and no amount of curated image can hide the truth forever. And with that, he turned his focus not just to the case but to the entire entertainment world. "This system didn't start and end with one man," he said. "We've all accepted too much under the excuse of that's just how the industry works, but that way of working has damaged too many lives for too long." The judge granted him a final moment to speak directly to the court. He stood up, calm but fierce, and said, "I'm not here to ruin someone's legacy. I'm not here to play hero. I'm here because I couldn't keep pretending the truth didn't matter." As he spoke, Diddy sat stone-faced. No more calm smirk, no more composed demeanor. His legal team whispered frantically, but Diddy himself seemed frozen, like a man watching the empire he built crumble in real time. Jaden continued, "I watched how artists who spoke up suddenly disappeared. I saw how people who simply asked for fairness were treated like threats, and for too long, I stayed quiet, thinking maybe it wasn't my place." But eventually, he realized something hard. Silence is complicity. He acknowledged the cost. He knew what his words would mean for his own career, for his family's future. Relationships will break, doors may close, but I've learned isn't a reason to ignore what's right. Then he looked straight at the jury. This isn't just about one person's crimes. It's about what happens when we allow someone to believe they're above accountability. No one should have that kind of unchecked power. When Jaden stepped down, the silence in the courtroom wasn't ordinary. It was the sound of a reality shift. Even reporters who'd seen countless trials seemed visibly affected. Outside the courthouse, Jaden walked out with his parents. They didn't smile, they didn't speak much, but the unity was obvious. Will Smith went briefly stopped by. Reporters said only, "Characters revealed in moments like this." I've never been prouder of my son. But while the courtroom fell silent, the entertainment world did not. Social media accounts of Diddy's known allies suddenly went dark. Publicists began issuing tight-lipped statements. "We had no idea." Executives scrambled to cut ties. The empire was starting to shake, but it wasn't the executives that spoke loudest. It was the next generation. Young performers who'd grown up seeing the fear, watching the silence. One anonymous insider said it best: "Watching Jaden Smith testify, it's like hearing everything we were warned never to say out loud. It feels like the first crack in a dam that's been holding the truth back for decades. And make no mistake, this isn't just Diddy's fall. This is the unmasking of the industry's most dangerous truths. And now that the silence is broken, the ripple effects are just beginning." If you found this report eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Because as more witnesses step forward and this historic case unfolds, we'll be right here bringing you the truth every step of the way. The era of unchecked power is ending, and this is just the beginning.